Hey, good afternoon and good morning across the land. This is a PCA Live Government Affairs update. Scott Pierce here, the Executive Director of the Premium Cigar Association, here with Deputy Executive Director and Head of Government Affairs, Joshua Bursky. And we are going to be joined on a secret, undisclosed location by Mr. Glenn Loop, the Director of our State Affairs. See if Glenn is. How are we doing, Glenn?
All good. Can you hear me?
Can hear you now. Glenn is on the road doing what he does best, which is visiting state capitals and lighting cigars and I would say kicking ass and taking names, but I'm not entirely sure that's appropriate when we're talking about government affairs, right? It's like the old,
uh,
what is that, Escape from New York? What is it? We do two things. We chew gum and kick ass. We're all out of gum. That's Mr. Glenn Loop when he visits our state capital. So, Glenn is primed for battle when he's got the bow tie on. So, all right.
that's
Well,
true. It's a serious day when I pull out the bow tie.
absolutely. So, wanted to give everybody just a brief update on what's been going on the past few months. I know we were able to see a lot of you all at the show. We did a good update there at the show. There's been a lot of things that have been going on, and we wanted to touch base on everything, get everybody up to speed. It does tend to be usually slower during August with recess and everything else. However, that doesn't mean we've slowed down here as far as PCA is concerned and what we're doing and everything we're gearing up for and getting prepared for. So, hello to the Great Lakes Smoke Show. Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh. We'll kick things off. Glenn will discuss some states and we'll discuss some overall things about PCA and what we're looking at for the last few months of the year. So, Josh, take it away.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, it has been anything but a recess this August. I think that between all the different travel, trying to go to as many of the marquee cigar events that are out there as possible this summer and fall, we wanted to have our government affairs team on the road and accessible to our membership as well as consumers asking questions. There's a complex policy issues that are taking shape at the state, federal level, but also even the local level. One of the things that I want to highlight, since the trade show, and I think we're going to be doing more of these regular updates because we are headed into an election season. We are, getting ready, and preparation really never stops on the state level with Glenn for the state legislative sessions that will gavel in early 2023. So, I think the big ticket items that we want to, let folks know, we've done some written releases, but kind of talk through some specifics and peel back the curtain a little bit. The association, we took a stance and position and filed a comment opposing the flavor ban, which at the federal level, we've been involved at the state level on many different flavor issues. But this one, the core of our comment was highlighting the retail impact, our bread and butter membership of brick and mortar retailers, what that would do to them, and then also poking holes in the logic and questioning the reasoning and justification by the Food and Drug Administration for asserting this proposed rule. We were joined by about 500 comments written by our retailers, consumers, and employees through our web portal, which, for a regulatory campaign is pretty good. There were a total of 70,000 plus comments filed on that docket. So certainly something that we will continue to monitor as the FDA considers it. We are meeting with the Food and Drug Administration, the new Center for Tobacco Products Director, Dr. Brian King, in September. September is going to be a very busy month at the federal level. We are going to be hosting events with chiefs of staff. We will be doing a roundtable with the Small Business Administration, as well as what I mentioned, I think the most important one, in having that first foray with the Center for Tobacco Products Director. So, I think that is one of the major issues. The second being the filing for the court case. That was submitted, a 10-page brief, which the FDA also submitted. This is discussing the remedy. We have already won the case, but what happens next and what are the remedies that the industry is seeking? What is the FDA contend? And our Council submitted that brief, and it was interesting. There was a lot of discussion from the FDA's perspective about tobacco 21 and how if the rule were to be vacated, it would go back to where 18-year-olds would be able to provide or purchase premium cigars, and that's simply not true. 40 states have already enacted state legislation that raised the age of purchase to 21. So we countered that. We sent the citation, so we feel real confident that our team did the appropriate homework in that submission.
And not to mention the fact that their own research shows that 18-year-olds are not purchasing premium cigars to great numbers, very minuscule as far as the research is concerned. So again, well, the best approach that we've always had, has been that we've got good documents. We've got good supporting research, not done by us, but done by the NIH and the FDA themselves in terms of this. And another strong point of where Josh just talked about with the bread and butter of our membership being the brick and mortar retailers, the strength in our comments comes from the brick and mortar retailers, and it comes from how you all run your shops, meaning as you all act responsibly and are good partners in this aspect, then that gives us a very, very strong argument. We know that you are fulfilling your responsibility to ensure you're not selling to underage, you're acting in good faith, doing your job to act accordingly to the policies that are set down. And when we showcase that, and by their own data, it showcases that well to show that our shops do not have infractions, that our shops are living up to their end of the deal, it gives us a very strong argument, and the data, again, supports our comments, supports our position. So we do have some optimism, guarded though it may be, because we are, again, dealing with a regulatory agency here. We do have some optimism that we are going to find favorable remediation here for the industry. And it will remain to be seen. Now, this is going to be, I'll call this an ignition point for us. This is not the end of our journey. This is an ignition point for us to start taking more control of our own destiny. We were a little bit more at the whims of the regulatory agencies, but now we have an opportunity to really take control of our own destiny as it comes to protecting premium cigars and tobacco industry as a whole. As Josh talked about, our formal position, which we have never wavered from beginning to end, we are against prohibition in any way, shape, or form. Definitional aspects of premium cigars aside, prohibition doesn't work. It's been proven for a very, very long time. That's why there was the repeal of the alcohol prohibition, because it simply did not work. And we also believe that as responsible adult consumers, we're absolutely out there fighting for responsible adult consumers to enjoy the products that they want to enjoy. And more importantly, for our retailers to be able to get access to get those products and to sell those to the adult consumers that they want. Again, you've proven you do this responsibly. There is zero reason for this, what we believe is a significant overstep of regulatory power, for this to come into play to harm shops and to also, take away consumer choice.
Absolutely. And, it's one of those things where the enforcement data also substantiates our position. That's something that we've raised time and time again. And I also want to, call into attention the flavor comment that we filed. We also had a section on pipe tobacco for those shops. And we recently visited in Boston, Peretti. And there's a lot of folks in our membership that are concerned about pipe tobacco. That is something that wasn't included in the initial proposed rule on flavored tobacco products. However, they were asking the question of whether it should or should not be included in future iterations. And, we stated on the formal record that we don't believe that it's justified. We don't believe that the rule itself is justified. Glenn, I want to pivot a little bit, while we're on the flavor discussion, to California and open it up to you about some state updates.
Well, speaking of prohibition, California.
Almost synonymous with prohibition at this point, right?
It was a nice segue. Our top state issue that's still looming and burning and now picking up steam is what's now called, and this is just breaking news, if you will, in the last couple of weeks, where they assigned a proposition number to this referendum, but it's Prop 31. And Prop 31 is a flavored tobacco ban in the state of California. Now, there's exemption for premium cigars, but it's got a very high threshold of $12. Pipe tobacco wrapped up in the loose leaf discussion, but it's still a huge financial hit, if you will, to our brick and mortar retailers. And we're working with a coalition that includes the Cigar Association of America, the National Association of Tobacco Outlets, the California Association of Retail Tobacconists, distributors throughout the state like Phillips & King, Cretech, go down the list of all the major distributors scattered throughout the state of California, working together to try to spread the word to the retail community, to the consumer community, that this Prop 31 needs to die. We won't have to go into the dynamics of why it's even on the ballot, but basically the governor kicked it there after what the legislature did. So that's first and foremost, and it'll be on the ballot on November 8th. So we encourage all of our California listeners and all of our California retail community to work together to defeat Prop 31. Still looming is the cigar bar and tax cap legislation in the state of New York. Still looming is the tax decrease legislation in the state of Delaware. As everyone should know that's involved in the brick and mortar community, we're working heavily in the capacity building arena right now. And this is especially important going into the 2023 legislative season. So we're vigorously working on association development and association redevelopment, reorganization, capacity building in the states of Arizona, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Louisiana, and Mississippi. A lot of other state associations are increasing their legislative presence with the retaining of lobbyists in their respective state capitals. I've said this 1,000 times. The level of sophistication that the brick and mortar community has reached just in the last 10 years is an amazing story. And the associations are coming together at the state level to defend themselves at the local and state level, and people like Josh and I are coaching, teaching, counseling, guiding with strategy, helping with strategy development on specific legislative issues like I'm going to reel off right now, because we can anticipate tax cap legislation going into the 2023 legislative season, which has essentially already begun, if you can believe it or not, in Virginia, New Jersey, New York, Illinois, Idaho, and Wyoming. We can anticipate tax cap bills for premium cigars in those states. You can also anticipate the return of local authority legislation, which has to die again in Kentucky and possibly the state of Oregon. So you can see through from my laundry list of those states that are still in session, those states that are within the next 6 months going to be pre-filing bills and preparing for the 23 session. The activity level has already started to pick up, and our organizational activity has to begin right now. So Josh and I will be scheduling training sessions for state associations going into the fall, like we did last year, where we'll be coaching, counseling, talking about grassroots organizational development, which brings me to my last point, is building the capacity of cigaraction.org. That's our mechanism, that's our tool, that's our instrument to reach the consumer community with the petitions that are necessary to let their voices be heard on specific state legislation of importance to the consumer community, as well as to the brick and mortar retail tobacconists throughout the country. So we need all of our retail partners to put cigaraction.org on their respective websites, distribute our releases. Let's engage the consumer community as never before on these bills that are good, bad, and indifferent, so that we can, again, take our advocacy efforts to another level.
Absolutely. And in that capacity building, we are going to also have some marquee events here in Washington, D.C. In order to prepare for the challenges in the state legislative sessions. We will be doing a fundraiser in October for our state legislative efforts. And then in November, we will be doing an international policy summit, November 16th and 17th. Kind of sharing best practices, from the legal to the legislative to the executive fronts here in the United States, but also abroad. The organization PCA, we filed a comment with the European Union about 2 months ago, and we are currently working on some projects in Canada, We know that tobacco control and the prohibition movement isn't confined to the United States, and we've had success, extreme success. 3-0 in the courts, but also the last 2 years we've had no new tax increases in any of the 50 states or at the federal level. So what is going right for us, and how can we share that information? What can we work on? So both positives and negatives, and we hope to have a good attendance here in Washington. It will be a live event, but also have a virtual component for folks that are unable to travel to DC and experience this event. We did a hybrid version, or what we did kind of a test run last year that was all virtual, but we feel as though that moving to this hybrid model of in-person and virtual will get better attendance. So outside of that, Scott and myself and Glenn and our team, we've been traveling around the country and talking with folks. It's been really positive feedback about the trade show, but also what's going on in the courts and having those conversations. I want to give a few shout outs, and then also highlight a few things that we will be doing in the coming weeks and some up and coming events. So I know that Ryan Parada, our government affairs manager, represented the Premium Cigar Association at the Boutique Cigar Association Festival this past weekend. And from all accounts, that was a fantastic event. Really good to see the connections with the BCA and all of the innovation that they're doing and the partnership that they're doing with our trade show. Scott, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, we put out a press release of wonderful relationships and building those relationships with Gabby Caffey and with Armin from DAF Cigars, and so on and so forth, as far as the rest of the membership that's there. And again, thank you to the BCA for their hospitality, for welcoming Ryan, and for the collaboration. I'm very excited. We're looking at doing something new next year with the BCAA, with the pavilion-like feel to what we're going to do at the trade show. Again, I think that I take a lot of pride, and I've talked about this quite a bit. I take a lot of pride for PCA being able to be somewhat of a launch pad for brands. Very much looking forward to the collaboration with the Boutique Cigar Association to provide new and interesting ways for these brands to launch, get a lot of face time with retailers, develop good fan bases with those retailers and consumers. Just again, we are all about the growth of premium tobacco retailing, and what better way to have good relationships with the Boutique Cigar Association and others. So thank you again to the BCAA for that great hospitality. And again, thank you to Drew Estate. They welcomed Josh and me up there for their Connecticut Barn Smoker. Phenomenal event. It was a sold out event. We got to go and meet with retailers and consumers. And obviously all of the Drew Estate folks who welcomed us as well. A great event, and really appreciate that. And as well, Nick from Foundation, we were able to meet with him as well. So that was, again, thank you again, Nick, for the hospitality, really spending some time with us and being able to go through a lot of great things that Foundation is doing as well. As Josh mentioned, it doesn't stop for us. We are going to be continuing to go and visit more retailers and consumers over the next few weeks. I'm headed to the Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival. So for anybody that's going to be at the Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival, I will be there. Please come find me. Happy to talk through anything that you have questions about as it relates to anything PCA. And Josh, where are you going to be this weekend, my friend?
I'll be at the Brew City Cigar Festival in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Paul Groh and Jennifer Groh, their event. Really excited to participate in that and connect with folks in that. But it's one of those things where, much like we did for Connecticut, we did retail visits along the way. So I will also be in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Toledo, Ohio, stopping off at some of our members and non-members to talk about the work of the PCA and the work that we're doing on the legislative and regulatory fronts.
So thank you to Paul Grow and to Jennifer for welcoming Josh, and thank you to Smoker Friendly and the entire Gallagher family for extending this offer for me to come and to meet with all of the Smoker Friendly owners that they have that are coming there, as well as to connect with all of the manufacturers that are going to be at the Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest, as well as the consumers. I've heard nothing but great things about both of these events, so very excited to go there, represent Premium Cigar Association, and meet with so many of you. Continue to spread this word about all of this great momentum that we have as an industry. I think that a lot of people look at this, to use a cliche, as a David and Goliath. But, I quite frankly, I feel with all of the weapons we have much more than just a sling and a stone here. And I think that we're doing a great job of leveraging that. And really, ultimately, a lot of that comes down to the fact that we have so many great allies and champions that are out there amongst you all as retailers, with manufacturers, obviously, in that partnership, but also the consumer engagement. As Glenn mentioned earlier, cigaraction.org. This is one of our key ways in which we can leverage the voices and the passions of the consumers to really articulate and hammer home our message about what we are as an industry, what we stand for, and why that needs and necessitates a differentiation in this regulatory sphere. And we've seen that with wins in both the courts, but also, as Glenn talked about, I mean, it's actually really phenomenal to stop and think about this as tobacco products. When we look at the possibility and likelihoods of tax reductions and tax caps and cigar bar bills being passed right now, we're starting to see this rolling boulder moving forward and gaining momentum of others outside this industry truly beginning to understand the difference and of this industry and what we offer and add in terms of value, in terms of community, in terms of charity and giving back, and cohesiveness of, I was just having a conversation yesterday with somebody who knows absolutely nothing about premium cigars, but talking about the fact that walking into Curtis Draper, W. Curtis Draper, down here next to the White House, and you can find everybody that will be in that shop at any given time, from power brokers and lobbyists and people working at the White House and Capitol Hill, to the Secret Service, to police officers, to the people who make the city run, like the garbage workers and maintenance workers, and everybody in between, from all backgrounds and categories of classes of socioeconomic and demographics and everything else. And Michael, you're absolutely right. 76% or 75% cigar tax in New York is atrocious, and we're working like crazy with our good partners at the New York Tobacconists Association to get that changed. We've got, Glenn, you can speak to this. We've gotten great headway. We've got state council members that are carrying that torch forward for us right now, that have connections to that retail community. So all of that's incredibly important for us to leverage those relationships, because relationships really are the currency for lobbying and for getting things done.
I cannot say enough about the work of the New York Tobacconists Association. We're partnering with them on the grassroots support of that legislation. They've got the right sponsor in the leadership in the Senate and in the House. They've built a bipartisan coalition of supporters. They're picking up sponsors left and right every week. I think it's just a matter of time. They're getting their voice across as to the importance of this in light of that 75% OTP in New York. And it's all because of the small business angle is coming out screaming loud and clear. And that's the case across the country. This is not about tobacco. It's not about smoke. It's not about cigars. It's about small business. It's about these businesses that dot Main Street America in virtually every congressional district and state legislative district in the entire country. And that message is starting to resonate and get through. And while I've got the platform for just a second, I want to mention the planning efforts to once again defeat flavored tobacco bans in Colorado and Maine. No doubt that legislation will be back as well as anticipated in some other states, but those two are very, very predictable at this juncture. I throw that out just as an example of what, as Scott just did, the diversity of the issues that this industry is confronting. And I just cannot say enough about the leadership in the retail community. It's like I told the guys in Virginia in 2006, you're no longer just tobacconists. Politics is now in your job description.
Yeah.
And that message has gotten through from New Jersey to Seattle. literally coast to coast, that message has gotten through. We've got a core of leadership in virtually every state. Half of the country's nicely organized at the association level. We're working to add another 10 states to that equation. And again, as Josh well knows in his history of politics, 10 years is nothing in the scope of time of politics. And this industry has just come so far in the last decade, and that's going to pay dividends for years to come.
When you think about it, right, 10 years is not even 2 terms for a senator, when we're looking at that as far as the U.S. senator is concerned. So you're right, it is quick. And I kind of liken this, and Josh got a big taste of how much I like to, reference pop culture when we were together this last weekend. But for me, it's very much, I think this is apropos, but Shawshank Redemption, I think most people have seen that movie, right? Well, Andy takes a very good approach to, he's going to do it piece by piece with that little chisel in order to build his tunnel out. And we're facing a massive tunnel as far as the way that big tobacco is set up, the way that people perceive big tobacco or tobacco in general, that any tobacco is big tobacco. And that's not what we're about. And so we have been consistently using what we've had available to us to chip away in order to clear a path, a good tunnel to freedom for us as the premium cigar and pipe tobacco industry. And right now we're starting to use bigger tools instead of just a little chisel. But that's effectively kind of the approach we've had to take, just as you talked about. And in 10 years, for the meteoric kind of way that we have blown out of here and been able to do this has been remarkable. And it has been only because we have had that grassroots support, as you talked about, Glenn. Again, Great Lakes Smoke Show, power in numbers. That's 100% accurate. It's a cliche, but it's 100% accurate that the power is in the numbers. And again, adding those voices, one string is easy to tear apart, but when you wrap, hundreds of thousands of strings together, you get an unbreakable rope. And that's where we're at right now. We just got to make sure we're using that to the most effective means as possible.
Well, and you guys make good points on this. The tough thing is we've really developed, and I think the narrative has changed about premium cigars. Yes. And that, for the longest time, on Capitol Hill, a lot of folks looked at premium cigars as just big cigarettes. Yeah. And it was an abundance of meetings and efforts trying to educate folks, staff, and it's the turnover is so fast between state legislators and even just the 435 that we have to deal with in Congress. It is very, very difficult to educate folks with that quick turnaround. So we have to keep beating the drum. And, we've already done over 70 or 80 congressional meetings just this year, and we're going to continue and assert that message moving forward. But it's like playing whack-a-mole, and the opposition is very fortified. They're very advanced, and all of a sudden we get a win in one area, and then you have some new crazy policy like in California at the local level. We're dealing with a prevention of a small business from hiring people, having a maximum threshold of employees, which is insane that a government or an entity would try and restrict businesses from providing a job for someone and a livelihood. So, that's kind of all the scope of what we're dealing with. I do want to make one other mention we forgot, and I can't believe we forgot it because we had a great event this week here in the District of Columbia. Right. Another marquee event, DC Smoke Week. We had
DMV Smoke Week.
DMV Smoke Week.
For those outside of this area, the DMV doesn't stand for the motor vehicle department. It's the District, Maryland, and Virginia is what the DMV stands for. So it was a great event here, all about that, but go ahead.
Yeah, talking about, with retailers and consumers at the City Club of Washington. Scott and I sat on a panel with, a great group of folks, Petworth Cigars, Damon from North Carolina, who's a tobacconist consultant, and then the gentleman from Prince George's County. I know that everyone provided some quality remarks, and it was a good first. I think it was the first DMV
second one. First one we participated
in. And something that we hope to continue to partner with in the future. So,
and the thrust behind it really was ultimately everything about cigars. But for us, in our perspective here, which is what we're really looking at here, is there are quite a bit of folks that had questions about opening up new brick and mortar shops. where to do it, and certain things everywhere from Prince George's County from opening up, even in the Bahamas, and looking at that. So again, a great event, and the more we can do, where we can provide resources and connect people with that to get people the resources, the more lounges, more consumers, more education, more people. Again, again, playing whack-a-mole, but the more people that we have that understand this, the harder it is for the opposition to pop up new moles.
Yeah, and I think that we've really hit our stride with communicating a lot of the best practices and information to folks, through different channels. But I would posit it out there, if your cigar group or your podcast or in your retail shop, if you want to have someone do a virtual or in-person session talking about government affairs, Glenn mentioned that we're going to be doing the training sessions. It's not all that difficult for us to, take a half hour to do a Zoom call for a cigar club or a retail shop, or even visit it. Now towards the end of the year, we're going to be extremely busy. So feel free to reach out if you have any requests for information. I know we're going to be putting together some new content resources, talking about if you're a brick and mortar and you want to sell at a golf course, for instance, satellite type licensing, how that comes together. We're putting a resource on that. We've gotten a bunch of inquiries from people about mobile cigar lounges, some, stationary, but how that process is going. So Ryan is doing a lot of research for us as we prepare new things. I mean, look at the guides that over the last 3-4 years we've been producing. Some has changed, but we have a lot of how to start a cigar lounge. That's a guide that PCA has. What you can bring as a cigar smoker on an airplane, things like that we've thought of. If there's any other requests that you have that might be useful information for our team to investigate, research, and put together, we are happy to do so.
All right. Glenn, any last thoughts from you, my friend, before we let these fine folks get back to their Thursday afternoons?
Well, I just want to thank the hospitality. Last Monday, I had a quick personal road trip, 24 hours in Chicago, and I spent the night there at the Casa de Monte Cristo, just in the suburbs of Chicago. And I bring this up for one reason. A ton of guys sitting around together, watching the Cubs play the Nats, watching the Cubs beat the Nats, and everybody was virtually over the age of 40. And in walks a surgeon to join everybody for a cigar after his shift got over in a hospital, a salesman, about a dozen people sitting around a big circle watching a late night baseball game. And I just thought to myself, I just stared at it and I went, this is what it's all about. This scene right here is what it's all about. And that's happening. And by the way, they said this, I've got to throw this in. They said it was the best trade show ever, the best trade show they'd ever been to in the life of their company. And I just stared at that group of guys sitting around watching that baseball game going, this is what's happening in cigar shops across America. And that's what we're out to protect, moments like that.
Yeah, another pop culture reference for you. It's really the theme song to Cheers. Got to go where everybody knows your name, right? And that's what our cigar lounges are. Good
but
stuff.
We look forward to doing the training this fall. If anybody's got any questions about specific issues, we're now doing, as Josh mentioned, we got Ryan doing research on issues in New Jersey and California at the local level. We're doing that throughout the country, so that's what we're here for.
And on our next update, in September, we'll have information on kind of what we discussed with the leadership of the Food and Drug Administration. So that will be a key government affairs update, PCA Live, that, we'll have probably the second or third week of September. But we will have regular communications and updates on some of the different events and other things that spring up. Who knows, tomorrow there might be some information that or a bill that drops that could be problematic. I mean, we've had stuff that we haven't really even talked about because our team, Patrick, Ryan, myself, federal level, there was a tax increase bill that dropped, and we were able to squash that. Federally, it always could rear its ugly head in the future, but and we try not to over inundate with folks with information, but just know that there's a lot of stuff going on in the back burner that we don't want to get everyone all worried about if it doesn't have traction.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for tuning in, and for those of you that are watching it recorded, hopefully you're enjoying a great cigar and kicking back and enjoying this. Hopefully not too much of a deluge of information, but just wanted to give everybody a good brief overview of everything that's been going on. We will see you back here in a month for a Government Affairs update and some increasing PCA shows as we get back into the swing of things after recess is over. As always, please reach out to us anytime if you have any questions. You can call me, call Josh, call Glenn at any time, or email us. Anything else, ways to get a hold of us. And again, thank you for everything that you do. And we will see you all soon at some future event or on a future live broadcast. Thanks, everybody. Have a phenomenal weekend, and I hope your stores are packed with people and sales are through the roof. Thanks, guys.